Good morning. Continuing a mimer we started to learn, Uvayom Hashmini Yimol, since the Pasha Stazia speaks about, this week Pasha speaks about a woman who gives birth, speaks about the days of impurity, and speaks also about the circumcision that takes place on the 8th day of Uvayom Hashmini. So, part 2, we previously learned. I'll give you a short summary of what we discussed. Initially, we spoke about what is the concept of the 8th day, why is circumcision override Shabbos, what's so special about circumcision that it overrides Shabbos. And so in this chapter is explaining, the first chapter, we explained the beginning, first of all, to understand the 6 days of the week. Then spoke about the inner concept of Shabbos. What is Shabbos? And then we can understand what is the 8th day. Good morning, Mr. Lobato.
Hi there, Jack.
Shmuel says hi to you, Jack. So, we learned that previously that Shabbos, during the week, you have the elevations that you do with the physical things. You eating, working to get the food. Everything that you do is really a sort of separating, sorting. I want this tomato. I want this cucumber, and then the body does its own. The body does its own elevations and separating. But then comes Shabbos. On Kabbalistic terminology, what happens on Shabbos is there is a drawdown from Atzilus. During the week, our job is to elevate to the worlds of Bria, the world of Yetzirah, to the world of Asiya. That's elevations are limited to that. Then on Shabbos, there's arousal from above that takes everything to Atzilus. Why to Atzilus? Because the world of emanation has a higher unity. So that's what happens on Shabbos. So that's really an initiative from above that takes place. In Kabbalistic terminology is the Mad, Mayim D'churin, that elevates the Man, the Mayim Nukrin. The masculine elevates the feminine. The masculine is the elevation that coming from a higher world, from the world of Atzilus. And they're elevating the Man, the Mayim Nukrin, the feminine, all the work that we arouse, that we brought. Then comes the bris. The bris, circumcision, has to do with a level that is even higher than Atzilus, and that's why it overrides Shabbos. It's also from Shema, it's also connected with Chochmah, with Bittul, but it's coming from a higher world than Atzilus. What is it? So in Kabbalistic terminology, it's called Ak, Adam Kadma, in the primordial man, which is a general will before the individual will to create the world. You have Ak. Within Ak itself, there's a few levels. There is the Mitzchod Ak, is Yesod Ak. The foundation within the primordial man is the level that is connected with the Bris Milah. Needless to say, it's a very lofty level. There is, like I said, the will of all wills. Like Friday, like when it comes to Shabbos, when we get to, so to speak, to the 8th day, to the end of Shabbos, to the peak of Shabbos, then what do we have? The Ravin, the will of all wills. That's the level that bris milah, the circumcision, is associated with. So now we're going to discuss that in order to receive the revelation of Shabbos, there's no need to remove the foreskin. Where the revelation of Shabbos shines also on someone that is orel, someone that was not circumcised. Meaning, if the Jew is not circumcised, for him Shabbos is still Shabbos. There are certain people that legally are not supposed to be circumcised. For example, if someone had two brothers, they died, God forbid, due to circumcision, then he doesn't have to be circumcised. So a guy like this, he also has the revelation of Shabbos. So, but in order to receive the revelation of Ak, which we said the revelation that is associated with the bris, which is above Atzilus, you have to have the removal of the foreskin. So to the level of Shabbos, you can handle it with the foreskin. The level of, when it comes to the revelation of the bris, one revelation that has to do with the circumcision that overrides Shabbos, because if you have a son that was born on Shabbos, the circumcision will be on Shabbos if he was born naturally. And there's a question if you postpone the bris, reason, let's say the child was not feeling good and you postpone the bris, then you don't circumcise him on Shabbos. The only time it overrides Shabbos naturally, and it was born on Shabbos. But the bris has such power that overrides Shabbos because it comes from a higher source. But in order for you to receive that source, you yourself need to keep, and you need to have, you need to remove the foreskin. You cannot be with a foreskin from this level that is called Yesod De'ak, which is the will of all wills. The will that preceded the individual will to create the world, to create this, to create that. So every desire has its category and subcategories. Like I want A. Within, when you say I want A, what is the A included? You want it in white, you want it in black, you want it this, you want this. So will has within it many details. Then there's the general will that is above all these details. Like the will to create the world. Within a world, there's many worlds. There's the world of Atzilus, there's the world of Bria. All these worlds were all included in one will. What about the will of the world? So, the level of Yesod, the Ak, which is the foundation of Ak, is associated with the Bris Milah, associated with Yosef, the one that was the vice of the king itself, was connected with, it was tested with the Yesod. Yesod is the concept of giving, is taking the attributes and giving it over to Malchus. So let's go to the...
Good.
What happened to the selling stocks?
No.
You see what we're up to? We're off in Shabbos.
Hold on a minute.
Oh, I thought you know. We're in Shabbos, you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Loch in Shabbos neiges bechol mokim. שבחינס ומדרגס אצילוס יכול להספשס ולהסלבש אפילו מוקים שיש זה לא מזה. Shabbos is everywhere. It doesn't make a difference if you are in Zimbabwe, you are here, or you are in Israel. Shabbos is Shabbos. It comes to the seventh day. The Gemara says Shabbos mikachum ekaimu, meaning Shabbos has its own kedusha. It doesn't need anything from us. If we decide that it's not Shabbos, it's still Shabbos. doesn't change the sanctity of the day. Kedusha has its own, had to do with Hashem, that He decided that this day is holy, and that's it. So Shabbos happens everywhere. Because Shabbos is associated with the world of Atzilus, as we said before. The relation of Ma, the masculine. So Shabbos can handle itself even in a situation where there is an opposition. It says Atzilus is a world of tikkun. Atzilus, the world of emanation, has to do with refining, with the correcting, fixing. Atzilus itself is completely corrected, completely refined. There's nothing to correct within Atzilus. Well, we call it a world of tikkun, but that's already a perfect world in terms of its connection to godliness, revelation of godliness. Uvislavshus in the spheres the Atzilus merubashim bevriya, uvriya beitzira, veitzira b'asiyah. The 10 spheres within, the 10 manifestations within the highest world, the world of emanation, are enclosed in the world of creation, and then in the world of the 10 manifestations within creation are enclosed in Yetzirah, the world of formation, and similarly with the 10 manifestations within Yetzirah are enclosed in Asiyah, in the world of action, in our world. So we find, since you have this degradation, you really have Atzilus. In essence, Atzilus is invested in the lowest places. But Atzilus does not shine as it is in the vessels of our world, the world of action. But since it has that capability of contracting itself, it can lower itself into the lowest garments, the lowest vessels. Obviously, the lower it goes, it's being more concealed and more hidden. But he's giving himself. Atzilus is giving to the lowest places. And when you have this enclosement, Atzilus, revelation from the world of emanation, to be enclosed and be concealed within the vessels, so you can have opposition. Since the Atzilus is being concealed in the vessels, you can have opposition. You can have other forces that they're claiming that they are running on their own, or that they're nurturing from a different place. Even though they're nurturing from Atzilus, they can say, no, we get our vitality from another source. Why? Because Atzilus is hidden. It's like someone that is getting paid. He's getting paid by his father. Every month his father gives him money. So he goes out there and he says to his friends, I'm making money. I'm playing stocks. He wants to show off to his friends. He says, I'm making money by myself. He doesn't tell them that his father gives him money. He gets it from another source. What does the Klippas do? The same thing. So Atzilus is giving them life. Atzilus is giving them vitality. Because it's hidden, nobody sees how Atzilus is making the transfer, how Atzilus is lowering itself. So they say, we're getting it from another source. So, but who is at fault? Atzilus is at fault. Because Atzilus is giving it in such a way that it's hidden. If you would have given it in a revealed way, it would be so blatant that you receive your vitality from Atzilus. No one was able to say, I'm independent. No one would be able to say, I'm getting it from another source. And even against the world of Atzilus, you have concealments that are corresponding in their intensity and potency like Atzilus itself. The same way that Atzilus is strong and it's giving its powers, giving its energies, the concealment forces are equally strong. But that happens only because Atzilus reveals itself through garments, through vessels. So that immediately enables the existence of Klippus, of the other forces, of the other side. This is written in the Gemara in Psachim 56a. Avram had Ishmael coming out of him. Yitzchak had Esav coming out of him. Vereisha de Esav v'atufi de Yitzchak. And Targum Yonason says, Reisha de Esav, the head of Esav, v'atufi de Yitzchak, ki Esav u'zerapin the klipa d'Atzilus. Just to have a little explanation of what it means, it says that the Avis, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, representing the emotive attributes of Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferes. Avraham Chesed, Yitzchak Gevura, and Yaakov's Tiferes. Now, and all in Atzilus, in the world of Atzilus. It says from the expression of the rabbis in the Gemara, Avraham had Ishmael, meaning that Ishmael is nurturing from the level of Avraham, from Chesed of Avraham, Chesed of Atzilus. And now we can understand what does it mean that the head of Esav, we just saw it in the Gemara Saita, that we have a separate video today, in Tractate Sota later, about 8:30, 9 o'clock. So we learned that Chushim knocked out Esav's head, and the eyes of Esav ended up right by Yaakov, which Yaakov is laying next to his father, Yitzchak. So it says over there, She'nikas Roisha shel Esav munach b'cheiko shel Yitzchak, that the head of Esav is right next to Yitzchak. As I said, the eyes are by Yaakov, the head is by Yitzchak. In the cave, in the famous Maras HaMachpelah, in the cave. So, what does it mean? Obviously, according to Kabbalah or Chassidus, it says that the nurturing of Esav is from the level of Yitzchak, which is Gevura of Atzilus. Gevura within severity within the world of Atzilus. Esav, who's Ubechinas Zor, the Klipa d'Atzilus. Esav has to do with nurturing from Zor, which is the emotive attribute. Well, where? He's getting it from Atzilus also. And how is he able to connect to such level? Through Yitzchak. So Avraham is the one that through Avraham Ishmael is receiving, and through Yitzchak Esav is receiving. Klippus are primarily in Bria, in the world of creation, but nevertheless they get their vitality from Atzilus. They're not dwelling there in Atzilus because Atzilus has no room for Klippus. It says about Atzilus, there is no evil in Atzilus. And evil does not come from above. Famous saying that evil does not descend from above. So primarily their abode is in Bria. But they have a shirish in Atzilus, they have a source in Atzilus to receive from it. Through Avraham and through Yitzchak. That's why, even in place of Klippus, you can have the revelation of Shabbos. You can have Kedusha, the sanctity of Shabbos, whether you oppose the Shabbos or not. No matter where it is, the lowest places and the holiest places. The Klippus This is a very interesting concept. When I say klippos, I mean the opposing forces, the considering forces. Okay? So the klippos would not me'akev, meaning they're not trying to oppose anything if it's transferred the way they like it to be transferred. What is the way that they like it to be transferred? Islabshus. If you were giving it in such a way that you were enclosing yourself into this object, into this person, into this world, we are comfortable with it. Why they're comfortable with it? Because the moment that there is islabshus, there is enclosement, they get something, they get piece of the action. They get piece of the action, they don't care. It's like the bank is going to say, I'm not making a wire for you. I don't want to take the money out of my account. We're keeping the money for you. But you want me to make a wire? I'm going to charge you a wiring fee. And then I'm comfortable in doing it. Same thing over here. The klippos are comfortable in the transmitting energy from Atzilus, from a holy world to this world. No problem, do it. But if you do it in our way, in a way of enclosement, comfortable, because there we get also. So since the light of Atzilus, revelation from the world of emanation, happens through enclosement in vessels, in garments, and so it's enclosed, and it's now the klippos are receiving from it as well, as I said. And not only that, they're receiving, and they don't have to say where they got it from. It's hidden that they received it from Atzilus. So they're very comfortable with this type of a flow. So what do we find from this? That the revelation of Shabbos, which is really a revelation from Atzilus, is in Imshechas, it's drawn down everywhere. Even outside of Israel, even in places that are dominated by non-Jews, and even if a Jew is not circumcised, the Kedusha of Shabbos is still coming to him as well. V'zeu davka inyan Shabbos. This is the concept of Shabbos, shehu isaruso d'leilo. It's an arousal from above. Lefia isaruso d'latato. It's an arousal from above that is like the arousal from below. Meaning, what you prepared before Shabbos, your preparation, your spiritual service and physical service, everything that you did during the week is being elevated on Shabbos. So according to the elevation, this is the arousal, that the reciprocation is happening according to your elevation. In Kabbalistic terminologies, what comes from Atzilus is called Ma. Mad and Ma. Mind Chur in the masculine, and Ma is the level of Chokhmah, the level of Bittul. The name 45 has to do with the name of Hashem, and it has to do with the numerical value of Adam. And then what is it coming to this revelation of Mad and Ma are dealing with what? They're dealing with Man and Ban, which Man is our arousal, the work that we do, and it's elevated to where? It's elevated to Ban, to the level of Behema, 52. So the 45, the Adam, is elevating the Behema, the 52. That's really what happens on Shabbos. Adam is 45, Behema is 52. That's corresponding to the name Ma and Ban. Ma is the revelation of Shabbos. Ban is the work of the week, is what we do during the week. So, but the response from above, this Ma that comes from above, the masculine that is coming down from above on Shabbos, is the intensity of it is dependent on what you did during the week. So what does it show us? That even when you have a revelation from Atzilus, from such a holy, lofty world, it considering the work that you did in this world. It's because it happens in accordance with the work that you did, similar to. It gives importance to what you're doing. It gives importance to this world. But there is another type of arousal from above, is very lofty, it's another type of arousal from above that is much higher than the arousal from below that you can ever arouse, meaning you yourself cannot get there. Your awakening cannot get there by itself. This is, what is this level? It's called Adam Kadmon, the primordial man. What is this level? That's the level of the will that preceded Atzilus. And this level is not enclosed in the world. At the moment that we say it's not enclosed in the world, that means that the Klippas cannot take it. They cannot receive from it. So the world of Atzilus can enclose itself in Bria because Bria is important to him. Bria has connection with Atzilus. Bria is receiving from Atzilus. On the other hand, when it comes to to Adam Kadmon, the primordial man, the revelation that preceded Atzilus, is so distant, it's so aloof from the world, and is not enclosed in the world. V'shamu mokim amila, that's the place of circumcision. Sha'ol achifefes u'masteres al gilui zeh, and the foreskin is concealing this type of revelation. So this type of revelation cannot come to a place where there is ola, where there is foreskin. Revelation of Shabbos couldn't care less. You have foreskin, you don't have foreskin, it comes down because it's enclosed. When it comes to the revelation of levels that preceded the world of Atzilus, preceded the highest world, it makes a difference. Because then it creates a contradiction. This level is completely contradicting Klippa, the other side. Like the saying, Ulerosho Omar, to the wicked, Hashem said, Ma lechol esaper chukai, who are you to say my laws? We are not able to live in the same place. So when it comes to the revelation of the 8th day, the level of the bris, does not work together with the impurity, with the other side, with someone that has a foreskin. That's what it says. You have to guard my covenant, and your children, let doiroi some for generation, and a male that didn't circumcise himself, once he grows up, is a little child, is not liable. It's his parents that are liable to. Once he grows up, there's an opinion, believe in the Ben Ish Chai, that says that from age 13, that becomes his obligation. But if he says, no, I don't want to do it, not because he's afraid to, not because he had 2 brothers that died, just for no reason, he says, I'm not circumcising myself, then he's liable to a circumcision. And he needs to circumcise himself. Milo miloshin krisa. What does mila means? Cutting off. Now, in order for the level of Adam Kadmon, the primordial man, the levels that preceded Atzilus, can be revealed within every Jew, he has to have the mila. He has to be circumcised. The word mal is also referring to dibu, to speech. So in what is speech? Speech is revelation. In order to be worthy or to be capable of receiving this revelation, you need to be, the revelation of Ak, you need to be circumcised. Or this revelation is being revealed through Ak, through removal of the foreskin, and now through the bris, you have the ability to tap into Ak. He says, even though this type of revelation doesn't have any enclosement, does not enclose itself, but nevertheless, it needs to be within, it has to happen to a Jew. And this is really what creates the deeper connection between us and God. That we are exposed to this type of a flow, even though there's no enclosement, but there is this supernal revelation exists, and it affects our connection with God. That's why a Jew is a believer in his essence, is a believer, the son of a believer, and is willing to give up his life for Hashem, like many Jews did. Even if he has no understanding in godliness, he would still do it. So the godly light is not enclosed in him in a revealed way, but nevertheless, the essence of his neshama is connected with what? With this light of Ak, of Adam Kadmon. On the other hand, when someone still has the Ola on him, still has the foreskin, it's contradicting it. Therefore, when we cut off the Ola, we are removing the klippis, removing the concealments. The revelation of Ak shines within the baby that was born. His body becomes holy and pure. And now the root of his neshama is receiving directly from Ak, from the levels that preceded Atzilus, the will of all wills. הגסו והקשו, ואחר כך במדבור נצטוו על הפריר גם כן, לעושר עיר הדה, גם כן שיגילו יסר. It says, after the removal of the foreskin, there is also something called priya. Priya, I believe today when a moyer is doing a circumcision, he does them both, or he does it right at one. The two stages within the circumcision. There is something called asor sa'orla, removal of the foreskin, and then there's priya. Priya is another very thin membrane or skin that is under the skin of the orla that is being removed as well. I don't know if they can do it in one shot or they do it one right after the other. But the rabbis tells us, the Gemara in Yevamot 71b says that when Avram Avinu was commanded to do the circumcision, he was not commanded to do the priya, to remove the thin layer of foreskin that is underneath the ola, that underneath the foreskin. And when the Jewish people were also commanded to circumcise themselves in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, they did not remove the thin layer, the priya skin, the skin that is under the foreskin. Why? Because in order to receive the revelation of Ak, it was sufficient at that time just to remove the coarse foreskin. The thin one, it was not needed at that time. And the thin really what we're saying is that the thin layer was not in opposition to this type of revelation, and therefore they didn't need it. But right before they entered the land of Israel, they were commanded to do also priya, to remove the thin layer that is under the foreskin. Why? Because at that time, higher revelation within Ak was now exposed to them, and to this revelation, they needed to remove also the thin layer of the Ola. So you have the Ola and the Priya, the thin skin that is underneath the Ola needed to be removed because they were now, before entering the land, they're exposed to a higher revelation within Ak. Because we said yesterday, there's Mitzcha Ak and there's Yesod Ak. So within Ak itself, there's different levels. Yesod Ak, the foundation within Ak, is giving to Mitzcha Ak, to the level of the forehead of Adam Kadmon. Mitzcha is referring to the forehead. But within the Rotzin, there's many levels of Rotzin. The whole idea of Ak is the concept of Rotzin, of will that preceded the general will, that preceded the individual will. So we're saying that there's the commandment to Avram and to the Jewish people in Mitzrayim to circumcise themselves was only on the first part of circumcision, because they're exposed to one level of Ak. Before entering the land, they were commanded to also do Priya, to remove the thin layer of foreskin, because now they're exposed to even a higher level that required that as well. The other hand, when it comes to revelation from Atzilus, which is connected with the world of Tikkun, the world of correcting, of repairing, elevating, refining, the revelation that comes from Atzilus is enclosed type of revelation, meaning that the level within Atzilus would contract itself, and then it would give it to the highest level within the next world. So that's his slabshus, that I'm taking into consideration the person that I'm giving into, that I'm giving something to, and I'm giving it to him according to his capacity. That's a slabshus, enclosement. So when you have this type of flow, a gradual flow, the klippos are comfortable with it. They are not me'akir, they're not opposing it in any way, or delaying the flow from coming down. And that's why Avraham Avinu was a prophet even before he was circumcised. And many prophecies and godly revelations he experienced before he was even circumcised. Says Parshas Lech Lecha, clearly Hashem speaking to Avram, Avram was a chariot to Atzilus. Why? Because in his prophecy was connected with the world of Atzilus. And the world of Atzilus, we just said before, can be revealed through concealing garments. And Atzilus can shine and radiate even in places of concealment, even in places of klippos. So there was no problem for Atzilus to shine even in places where you didn't remove the foreskin. Even if Avram wasn't circumcised, Hashem was still speaking. He was still able to prophesy. Aval Kedesh, Yesod De'ak, in order for Avraham Avinu to be exposed to the revelation of Yesod De'ak, which we said is the level that preceded Atzilus, the wills of all wills, level that is not enclosed, and then there is an opposition. He was required to circumcise himself, to remove the foreskin. At that point, Orla is in opposition, and it prevents the revelation from coming down. This type of ray, this type of revelation, is not dependent, is not enclosing itself in the world at all. Mokim Melech Hashmini, that's the 8th king, the place of the 8th king. We learned before that the nations of the world had 7 kings, 8 kings, but 7 kings, it says about them, that they reigned, they had their sovereignty, they had their kingship, and then they died. So the Torah says, and then comes the 8th king, Hadar. It doesn't say that he died. It doesn't say about him, So when Avram needed the revelation of Ak, he needed to remove the foreskin. And he was commanded to remove the foreskin. Why? When it comes to this type of revelation, there's no room for enclosement, there's no room for concealment. It's pure flow. And God willing, we'll continue tomorrow with this mimer. You should all be blessed and healthy and wealthy. And I will daven, and then we'll have another Gemara class. Thank you all.